Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the extra time segment for Brighton 0, Everton 0. We're going to do our best to try and dissect that absolute bore fest of a game. I'm joined by Terry McAllister. I've got Mike as well from the Unholy Trinity Podcast. Welcome back again, Mike. How are you doing?
Not too bad, mate, to be honest with you. Yeah, nice little trip into town today and Lark Lane, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, pubs are reopening. I mean, it's just as well, isn't it? Because, let's be honest, we're going to have to be down on a couple of pints to stomach the way Everton are playing right now, aren't
we? Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? You know, and we're going to come on to Brighton, but it's, at the moment, it's not fantastic football that we've got on show.
Well, I would say that's an understatement, mate. Oof. Really difficult one. But yes, we've got a lot of injuries. What's your take on? A lot of people have tried to blame injuries for what we saw at the Amex. What's your take on that? Is injuries alone a viable excuse?
You'd like to say no. You'd like to think that, we've got enough quality left over to go and win that kind of game. I expected that performance, I'll be honest with you. I didn't expect it to be as open as it was against Crystal Palace. There was a lot of talk about Alan not being fit actually on the day of the game. Then you hear the Calvert-Lewin rumours as well. So there's two of your main players and obviously your top goal scorer taken out of things. But I think if you look at things on the whole, I think when you bring in players the likes of Alan Decore, James, and they've all been missing for decent wedges of this season, I think expectations need to be potentially reviewed because the squad is massively stretched. We haven't got loads of quality as backup. We haven't got quality anywhere near that of Alan Decore or James Rodriguez. So whoever comes in for him is not going to be as effective. We know that. I think that injuries are not the only telling factor, but injuries certainly can't be overlooked. I mean, people are going to want to hear that and still going to want to say, well, 11 players on the pitch at on Monday were good enough to beat a Brighton side. But you've got to look at who was brought in the summer window. What job they were brought in to do? They were brought in to improve the side, and we're now wedging people into various systems, and it doesn't suit certain players. So yeah, not the only reason, but it's a massive reason as to why things aren't going our way. I'll be honest, and people may not like that, but that's a God's honest truth. We've got to sort of understand where we are and how much these injuries all season after those first 7 games have hampered our progress. But that's only my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the injuries have, and obviously I think the injuries expose the other problem for me. Yes, we have had bad luck with injuries, but so have other teams. And, it is rotten luck we've had that it's our best players, or maybe not necessarily best players, but most important, because once Decore and Allen are out of that midfield, we've got some absolute crabs in that midfield. And, it exposes them for the frauds they are. And we saw it. I was fearful of this when Decore got injured, that we'd have to deal with a midfield similar to what we dealt with at the back end of last season in Project Restart, when the midfield was slow and laborious and has no ambition. And we're seeing it again now. The midfielders that we have as backup are just absolutely abysmal and not fit to wear the shirt. I think it sounds a bit extravagant maybe, but it is. There's not enough drive in some of these players.
I think, yeah, it's a little bit maybe extreme to sort of say that. I think that, we're still asking certain players in centre mid as well who are coming in for our preferred players to do jobs that they're probably not comfortable with. We know Tom Davies isn't great at sitting, and again, not his fault. He's better, I think, slightly further forward. Andre Gomez certainly can't sit. So there's 2 options. Then you're asking sometimes Sigurdsson to drop in there. We know Sigurdsson is not a central midfielder. We know Sigurdsson doesn't play particularly well with James either. There's a lot of reasons as to why things aren't particularly working, but we've got to understand that the quality behind the maybe 12 or 13 players that we've got is just not there. So until a lot of people, let's go back to when Carlo was brought in, or even the summer when we were all celebrating the signings that we got. We made a fantastic start of the season, and people were saying, Carlo, make sure Carlo has a good 3 or 4 windows, and we're not just talking, 3 or 4 windows, including, the January window. We're talking, 3 or 4 summer windows for me to actually rectify the problems that we've got. And as soon as we encounter issues or things don't go our way, you start to hear silly things and people saying about, Carlo is his time up, and then started to constantly slip the team. These same people were saying, give him 3 or 4 summer windows. Well, where's your patience then? And look, I know it's frustrating. It's horrible to watch. It was horrible to watch on Monday. And besides that, I will be chance at the end. I never sat there and thought, we're going to win this game. Maybe because I expected it. Maybe I was a little bit more accepting of the situation than others. But you've got to go back and stick to your guns and think, what was I saying when Carlo came in, or in the summer, or what have you? It's not always roses, you know what I mean, when it comes to football. And there's always going to be bumps in the road. And people need to remember what they've said. Give the manager time. Give him a chance to build a squad, not just an 11 or 12. Let him bring the quality in throughout that squad. There's a long way to go. A long, long way to go. But let's just give the manager time, and we will progress. But, injuries are the biggest factor. I'm not going to lie. They have absolutely killed us, because there's nothing on the bench either. Look at the numbers on the bench added up to 352 or something ridiculous on Monday. You got kids wearing number 60 and 64. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, it does play its part, but I think a lot of the frustration owed to the fact that we started the season very well and we're falling away very quickly. I think, just a couple of weeks back, we were still in the hunt for, top 6, maybe even top 4. That's gone now, I think.
I think probably a lot of people got carried away with seeing top 4. It's a funny season, isn't it? And I think the frustration comes from the fact that because it's such a funny season, and we're seeing sides like West Ham obviously up there, Leicester obviously doing well again. It was probably a bit of a false situation, really. And we're all thinking, we can get Champions League, and okay, we could have got Champions League. But when you look at what's gone on over the last few weeks in terms of players that have been missing, it's a huge factor. When you take Hammers out of that side, you lose the one player who can open up any defence. We saw it. I mean, how many times during a game does he switch to play and bring like Luca Dean in, who's in acres of space? Does it time and again? A little slide ball that he played through to Sigurdsson, an unbelievable ball, which Sigurdsson then decides to turn back out of the box and pass it backwards. But Hammers is the only player we've got to open sides up. When he doesn't play, we struggle massively. We go back to the Palace game. We had 50-50 in terms of the ball. We had how many clear-cut chances to win that game? You know what I mean? So there has been games where we've just literally just thrown it away by not putting the ball in the back of the net and having some decent chances. But it's frustrating. I totally get it, because everyone thinks there's a huge chance missed here. And Europe, it could be off the cards altogether the way things are going. Not ideal. That was the target for the season. But we've just got to stick in there and just try and remain patient. It's probably, maybe I'm flogging a bit of a dead horse here, because people were so sort of got ingrained in their mind that Champions League was potentially on the table, or top 5, top 6. But the right man's there. The right man will bring in the right players. Just give him time.
Well, don't get me wrong, Mike. There's no doubt in my mind that he's the right man for the job. The problem that concerns me is the idea of, the likes of West Ham and Leicester couldn't, as well as the established big 6, if you like, all being more attractive prospects to players than us when we go to sign, bringing better players in the summer.
I'd say, but I don't think they will. I mean, Leicester are ahead of us, aren't they? Leicester have been knocking up. They won the league a few years ago. They're always pushing in and around there for Europe, so they're probably slightly ahead. And their recruitment, I think, has been very, very good over the last few years as well. When they sold the better quality players, they brought in, players for a fraction of the price who are as effective. I think we're still an attractive proposition because of the man who's there, because the fact the owner wants to put money into the club, because of what's on the horizon with Bramley Moore. We are an attractive club to come to. And the jigsaw pieces will, they will fall into place. But I'm on board with the frustration. I think I just show it maybe a bit differently to other people, and I try not to be as knee-jerk, because I think on Monday I saw too much of that again, and I just think it's too predictable. There's more going on here, and when you look at the 11 who started the game, okay, it wasn't a bad 11. You could say we should win the game, but you haven't got your 20 goal a season, man, straight away. So as soon as you start playing, say, longer balls where Calvert-Lewin would normally bring it down his chest and bring players in, that wasn't there. Not Richarlison's fault, but he doesn't do the same job as Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So you're taking out one of the Premier League's top goal scorers from that side. So straight away you're losing massive firepower. You look at the bench. There's nothing on the bench. Iwobi's semi-fit. He's been injured. There was Nkunku, who's had a little bit of first team football. We're bringing on, great for the kid, Nathan Broadhead, fantastic. But who's on the bench who's going to make any kind of difference to that performance? No one. And we've got to look at that. We know we're trying to thin the squad out, and we've done a half decent job of that. But we know we've got to build the squad back up again with better quality. And at the moment, that's just not there. And the bench showed it again. But I do get the frustration side of things, but I'm just a little bit more, I'm a little bit more accepting and a bit more flexible, in my opinion, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. It's just bad luck, but at the same time, I feel like it's an opportunity we can ill afford to pass up. I mean, I just don't like the idea of more teams overtaking us. I think that's where the fear comes. I think it's the fear of missing the boat. We've done it so many times as a club in the last couple of decades, and we can't afford to do it again.
Yeah, and there's no, I'm not saying that we're not going to get Europe. Europe is still very much on the cards, and I'd rather be playing the likes of Spurs, Arsenal, Villa's, sides like that who are up there, who've got a bit more quality, who play maybe slightly more open football, than playing the likes of your Brightons and Palace and teams like that. I'd rather play the better side. I think we've got a better chance against them, to be honest with you. And, when it comes to Friday against Spurs, the chances are Jordan Pickford's going to be back in, which the more I watch Olsen, I think Pickford is definitely number one. I think, obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin should be back in. Allen is hopefully going to be back in. Josh King should be back in and around the squad, which is another body. So if you throw those four into the squad, it looks a little bit better and gives you more options off the bench as well. So, I'm still hopeful. I wouldn't like to miss out on Europe, of course. We want to be fighting on European fronts every single season, and I still think we're gonna get it, to be honest.
I like the optimism. I'm not going to lie. Teddy, what's your take?
We just blown the Champions League, haven't we? Let's be honest. Like we went into fourth. We had games in hand, and we had Burnley, Crystal Palace, and Brighton as the next three games, and we took 2 points. It's like it was on a plate for us. All we needed to do was put a run of games together. And all right, the injuries have played a massive part. I understand that. Like the injuries can explain a lot of things, but you can't. There's a difference between reasons and excuses. Like, it's not an excuse to not beat Crystal Palace when you have that many chances against them, or Brighton when they're not playing very well. They weren't very good against us. We weren't very good either. But if we apply ourselves, we can easily win that game. There's no excuses, but there are reasons for when, the football's terrible and the setup's awful. Like, if you look at that Brighton game, he's got 12 fit players and 6 of them are defenders. So he's got to play defensively. He's got to try and nick it, because what's he going to do? He's playing, 4 centre-backs. He's playing, the 2 full-backs as well. I don't know what else he can do. He still needs players to turn up, and the midfield three, Holgate played okay, and the other two were terrible. Like, you know, Davies has had a good season. I actually disagree with Mike. I think he's better than number 6. Personally, he's not a destroyer. He's not a tackler, but he's good at receiving the ball and distributing it. When he's in one of the 2 other positions in the middle 3, I think he's a bit of, you know, not really sure. Yeah, he's not really sure what he's meant to be doing. Like, he loses the ball too much and he gets knocked off it too much, and, you know, so on. And Sigurdsson, he just was nowhere, was he? He was just a ghost again. Just contributed nothing. James Rodriguez must want to kill him, must just think, what are you doing? You don't contribute nothing to this team. So Champions League's gone. We could have had it. Like, West Ham might get it and go, you know, power to them if they do, but I just think it's a season where it was on the table for us because there's loads of, you know, Spurs keep dropping points. Liverpool have dropped loads of points. You know, Chelsea are getting a few shock results like the West Brom game, so it was there for us and we just haven't took it again. Europe, I don't think, is out the question. I think as players start to come back, you know, we'll probably see an uptick in performances and hopefully results as well. You know, Calvert-Lewin's coming back. I think Allen's going to be huge when he gets back. But yeah, we just haven't had the squad, have we? As soon as we've had to dip under the first 11 at different points in the season is when our results have really dropped off a cliff. As soon as we didn't have 8 or 9 of the key men in, we just were like a different team. I know a lot of teams are like that, but you look at Chelsea as an example, their bench is full of strength and full of quality. So if they have any injuries, they can carry on, you know, keep on trucking and play a good team. We can't do that. And it's caught up with us at the key time in the season. It's not over yet for Europe, though. You know, there's still plenty of games against teams around us. If you beat Spurs, you beat Arsenal, or you beat Villa, you know, got to play Villa twice. You know, it's still in the mix. But if we've lost, you know, tap-in opportunities. You know, every Spurs keep drawing. And, you know...
The other week where all the teams around us got beat. And then we
can't beat, you know, Palace and Brighton. It's just... It's a kick in the balls because it happens every single time we get close. It happens when we had Martinez in the first season. We had 4th place there for us. And we blew it against Palace then as well. And didn't get it. It's like... That's the target we're heading towards, like Champions League. I don't think anyone expected we get it this season, but it's like if it's there for you, you've got to make a better go of it. It wasn't like we went 4th, but then had City, United and Liverpool as our next 3 games. We had Burnley, Palace and Brighton, and we were battered by Burnley. We battered Palace and drew, and then we just both teams stunk the place out at Brighton.
Yeah. I think what worries me is, like, if West Ham and Leicester both get Champions League, they're instantly better propositions for players than us. Players will want to play for them more than they want to play for us. I don't care what anyone says.
I don't think that's the same issue it would have been a while ago, though, because I don't think that we're in competition per se with those clubs for players. I think our targets are our targets and their targets are their targets, because it's not like the old days where Harry Redknapp would come and try and get Moyes' targets when he, you know, and offered them more money, or, you know, they prefer to live in London. I think if West Ham get Champions League, no players are going to look at them and go, well, they'll be in it next year as well. They'll know it's like a fluke season, so they'll get better players than they would have got. I don't think that immediately makes them a more attractive proposition than Everton. Leicester already are in a more attractive proposition than Everton, so I don't think them 2 finishing in the Champions League affects us whatsoever. I think if we go in for a player that West Ham want, we'll get them. If we go in for a player that Leicester wants, we might not. So I think you need 3 or 4 seasons before you change your perception like that to be competing with players. Leicester have done it. Leicester over the last couple of years have jumped ahead of us in the pecking order. Sad fact. But West Ham aren't going to jump over us in 1 season. It's just not going to happen, especially now that we've got a world-renowned manager. If they're not, you know, if they're in the Champions League in the next 4 years, then yeah, but are they going to be? I doubt it.
No, probably not. But I think it's just that it's more that we just can't afford to, like you say, we should have already been starting to change perceptions by getting into Europe this season. And
we still can.
We're blowing it.
Not to say we can't. I know what you say. For us, I don't think if we finish in the Champions League, I don't think our targets would have changed. I think we're going to go for the players we're going to go for. I think we've already got them identified, and that's the end of that. And I think that's the same with every club. I don't think there's this the COVID sort of like effect on the transfer markets, other than the very, very top ends where like, the elite players, like Harry Kane start saying they want to leave and stuff like that. I don't think there'll be any reactionary transfers. I don't think there'll be any like, he's available or we'll change it. I think clubs are being very careful with their money, setting out who they want, have a list of targets, and they're not deviating from it. We've seen, on the day of recording, it's come out from Paul Joyce that we've targeted Max Adams. I don't think anyone else will see that and go, we best go for Max Adams before Everton get him. I think the ones who were interested in Max Adams were interested in him months ago, same as we were. I think it's just a case of getting your business done early because nobody can afford to take gambles or punts at the minute. All the pennies have got to be looked after by even the rich clubs.
Yeah. So with that in mind, that's definitely what I think that's the major cause of the poor performance at Brighton. It's not necessarily the first 11 have got in, like members of that team are injured, and it's exposed the B team as absolute frauds, which we already knew. Let's be honest, some of them are absolute crabs. Like they shouldn't be anywhere near this club. Some of them,
like it won't be. It doesn't work. Take what you get. You get offered a £5 for him. Take it because you can't be missing chances like that at the end of the game. I know he only came off the bench. Was like, mate, you're the only senior sub. You come off the bench. You've hardly been seen since you came off the bench. You haven't done a tap, and then a chance falls for you, and you don't even get it on target.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He wants to play in his preferred position, though. His preferred position. Yeah, but his best position, in my opinion, is on the whoops trolley and Little.
I think if you'd have put Kyle John on and he had that chance of the fell to him, he'd have got it on target at least. He'd have just smashed it low and hard. That idiot. He's just. What does he do? We spent all this money on him, and he has about 3 good games each season so far, like the last 2 seasons. And one of those 3 is like a 5-minute cameo where he comes off the bench and does a few tricks. It's absolutely useless. He's not right for us. He's not going anywhere because no one's going to buy him. But like, just shite. Excuse my language.
It's just.
But there's others as well. But you want players to come off the bench and do something, and he just didn't.
That's what I mean. I think that's the real problem is whether these players are being called upon as backups or they're coming off the bench as a sub in when all the players are fit. There's no impact there. There's no contribution. And we saw it against Brighton. Like, these players haven't got a clue what they're doing. They don't know what football is.
I don't think the Brighton games the Brighton games probably the best games to go off. I think there's been multiple games this season. How many times have we said the bench, when we have made changes, they haven't made any kind of difference to obviously the result of performance. I'm not sure what the stat is, but I know it's fallen in terms of how many goals a sub has actually scored for us this season. Because I tell you right now, I can probably fit them on 1 or 2 fingers and say, if not any at all.
Sigurdsson scored the pen for us at Anfield in the derby. That's the only goal a sub scored all season.
So there we go. So he had the free shot from 12 yards and stuck it away. So that tells you all that you need to know in terms of what impact we're getting from those off the bench. So if we've got our best 11 playing, so if we look at, say, go back to the start of the season against Spurs, for example, the West Brom, the Brighton game, things like that. If we've got all those players playing, Alan Decore, James, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, etc., look at the bench then, and there's not a soul ready to come on and actually influence the game. There's players on there who can help you see a game out potentially, but we haven't got impact substitutions who, if you need a goal, can come on and do something. Bernard doesn't really do it. Josh King hasn't done it since he's been there. Obviously, Gomez won't come on and do it. Davis, when he doesn't start, won't come on and do it. There's a lot of players there who are not going to come on and get you a winning goal or get you back into the game. And that's the thing. We need to, when we're losing players to injury, whether it be Calvert-Lewin, James, Alan Decore, we need players on the bench or within the squad.
Game changers. We need game changers.
We do, but we need the same kind of quality. You can come in and replace them. So when we have these kind of injuries, when we're saying that they've hampered us quite a lot this season. When we're losing our key players, we've got to have players of similar quality who can come in off the bench, squad players, what have you, and it's seamless, and you're getting similar kind of performances from that player as well. And that's what we've got to build up to. And that's what's going to take the time, unfortunately. And like you're saying, it's exposed our lack of depth this season in terms of injuries. We've had players who've come in have not been up to it and are nowhere near the standard that we want to be working towards. And that shows you the gulf that we've got from our top sort of 11, 12 players and the rest. And that's what needs to be addressed. And that's what I'm sure will be addressed as the next couple of years go on.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we'll probably leave it at that, because I think if we talk about the Brighton game anymore, I think we'll descend into some sort of I just want to nod off just talking about the Brighton game. So we'll probably call it a day on that one. Brighton 0, Everton 0. Leave us your comments on the game if you dare. And yeah, give this video a like and subscribe. And until next time, thank you for watching on the Toffee Blues.